In the last 12 months, over 500,000 online house sale listings have been removed from Rightmove and Zoopla. Yes, you heard that right, 500,000. You might assume these listings disappeared due to an automatic expiry system, but no, they were manually removed. Someone literally deleted all these listings because they weren't selling, and the impact on the platforms was so bad that they had no other choice. And that's not even the worst part. At first glance, it's easy to believe these properties were overpriced, but you'd be wrong. Over 49,000 listings were priced below the market average. In other words, they were cheap, yet around 60% of them still didn't sell. Yes, 60%. These were considered affordable listings, showing that the market has become so expensive that even lower-priced homes struggle to find buyers right now. And I'm not even talking about the housing gap in the UK, because around 1,340,000 homes are on waiting lists based on England's local authority housing registers. The situation is so bad that in some areas houses aren't selling, while in others people can't find homes at all. But the main issue is unaffordability. According to HBF, reports from late 2025 and early 2026 show that at least 1.5 million people, mostly first-time buyers and young families, are currently unable to buy a home due to high house prices compared to incomes, deposit requirements, and strict mortgage affordability tests. And honestly, I believe the real number is even worse. But this is the only trustworthy statistic I've found. Looking back over the past 3 decades, the shift becomes obvious. If we go back to the 1990s, the average house price to salary ratio was around 4 times. At that time, an average house was selling for about £58,000, while the average yearly salary was around £14,000. But if we come to where we are now, things are much worse. Today, the average house price to salary ratio is around 7 times. A full-time worker earns roughly £31,000 to £33,000 per year, yet average house prices are sitting at around £271,000. And in these 30 years, salaries haven't grown enough to cover basic needs as well as they did in the past. Back then, people were able to save up much more of their income. Housing, food, and energy took a smaller share of earnings, which made saving for a home realistic. Now those same essentials take up a far larger portion of income, leaving much less room to save. And when people can't save, they can't buy. That's where the real imbalance begins. Because while demand for housing remains high, the supply of new homes has failed to keep up. And that's what pushed the market into the strange situation we see today. Unsold homes in some areas and desperate housing shortages in others. The UK simply isn't building enough homes. Over the last decade, England has averaged around 180,000 new homes per year, while experts estimate the country needs at least 300,000 annually just to keep up with demand. That's a shortfall of 120,000 homes every single year. Over a decade, this adds up to more than 1.2 million missing homes. When supply fails this badly, prices don't just rise. They separate from what people can realistically afford. In simple terms, this means millions of people are competing for a limited number of homes. Every year, the gap grows wider. And when there aren't enough houses to go around, the market stops behaving normally. Sellers hold unrealistic price expectations. Buyers get desperate, and entire generations are pushed further away from ownership. At the same time, mortgage conditions have become a serious barrier. In 2020, average mortgage rates were close to 2%. Today, first-time buyers are commonly facing 5% to 6% interest rates. On a £250,000 mortgage, that difference adds over £400 per month in extra repayments. And with typical deposit requirements of 10 to 15%, buyers are expected to save £25,000 to £40,000 upfront before they even qualify. For most young adults, that level of saving is simply unrealistic. Wages haven't kept up, living costs are higher than ever, and rent drains what little remains. So, even people with stable jobs find themselves locked out. Not because they're irresponsible, but because the entry price has moved beyond reach. And renting, the supposed alternative, is no longer a safety net. Over the last 2 years, average UK rents have increased by roughly 20%, with major cities experiencing rises of 25 to 30%. Tenants now spend a record share of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. leaving almost nothing to save for a deposit. This creates a trap. Those who can't afford to buy are forced to rent, but renting prevents them from ever saving enough to buy. Meanwhile, homes remain unsold at prices nobody can reach. A market where buyers are locked out, sellers are stuck, and the system slowly begins to crack. And when you step back and look at the overall condition of the market, one thing becomes clear. This isn't a normal housing cycle anymore. In the past, markets slowed down, recovered, and moved on. But today, the UK housing system feels stuck. Prices are too high for buyers, but too important for owners to let go. Builders can't build fast enough, and governments can't fix the gap quickly. Every part of the system is pulling in a different direction, and the result is a market that satisfies no one. What makes this situation even more fragile is confidence. Housing markets run on belief that prices will keep rising, that homes are safe investments, that buying now is better than waiting. But when listings get deleted, when affordable homes don't sell, and when millions are locked out completely, that belief starts to crack. And once confidence weakens, markets can change faster than most people expect. So, where does this leave us? For buyers, the dream of home ownership is drifting further away. For sellers, finding a real buyer is becoming harder. And for the country as a whole, the housing question is turning into a social and economic pressure point that can't be ignored much longer. The real question now isn't whether the system is broken, it's what happens when it finally reaches its limit. Governments are aware of this problem, at least on paper. The UK has repeatedly announced housing targets, promising to deliver 300,000 new homes per year, introduce planning reforms, and support first-time buyers. But targets and reality are very different things. Projects get delayed, local opposition slows construction, and funding gaps remain. So, while policies sound good in headlines, the people waiting for real change are still waiting. And until supply genuinely increases, affordability will remain out of reach for millions. Behind every statistic in this video, there are real people. Young adults postponing independence, families stuck in overcrowded flats, workers spending most of their income on rent with nothing left to save. Housing is not just an investment asset, it's the foundation of stability. And no society can stay healthy when a basic human need becomes a luxury. Hopefully, the coming years bring smarter policies, faster construction, and a market that works for people again, not just numbers on a chart. For now, this is where the UK housing market stands. A system under strain, caught between rising costs and falling affordability. If you want to stay updated on how this story develops, feel free to follow along, because this situation is far from over. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.